guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a beginner makeup tutorial. If you want to start getting into makeup, you want to start maybe building a solid makeup routine, you just don't know where to start, this is a tutorial for you. This is going to be detailed. We're going to go through step by step on what to use, how to use it, how to apply it. Then we're going to dive into some details about why I use high-end products for certain things versus the products that I wear and choose to buy from the drugstore. I think that's a very important piece when we start talking about like building a makeup routine, because makeup can be expensive. Then two things I want to highlight before we get started is one, practice. Practice makes perfect. You are not going to get it right the first time. You may not get it right on the 10th time. I have gotten so frustrated with certain makeup techniques and how I apply my makeup. And trust me when I say I have gotten so much better because I've just sat down, practiced, and really just tried to perfect certain things that I like about my makeup. The second thing I want to remind you is that the products that work for me may not work for you. And that is okay. We all have different skin types. We have different aesthetics. But this is what makes makeup so much fun, because you can experiment. You're gonna find your makeup style, what you like, what you don't like. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. I'm just gonna we're gonna do the makeup now, so come on. So step one is always going to be a primer. Primers are great for one, making your makeup last all day long. If you are an oily skin type, it can help control that oil, especially when you have makeup on. And if you have dry skin like me, this helps the foundation cling onto your skin. It's also hydrating at the same time, so your foundation is not clinging onto any kind of dry patches. For me, I like buying a high-end primer. I don't see a lot of primers that are catered to dry skin gals like me in the drugstore. So I like putting this on in the areas that I need. I get driest around my forehead and my mouth area. Start from the center of my face and I just work it outwards. Now that we have primer on, we're gonna start off with our foundation. I'm going in with the Patrick Ta Major Skin Hydra Luxe Luminous Foundation. I actually recently started to like this foundation if you saw my last video. What I will say about foundation is that I always buy a higher end foundation. I think it's worth it to invest in a more long-lasting formula. If you like a full coverage glam, then I definitely think that a higher end foundation is worth it. I would say this foundation is like medium coverage. You can build this up to full coverage. If you want something more soft and something more lightweight, maybe you want to invest in like a BB cream or a skin tint. I'm gonna put some of my favorites on the screen, from light coverage to full coverage foundations. Now that you have your foundation on, it's time to go in with concealer. We're gonna use the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer today. I have loved this concealer since I was like 16 years old. I am very picky with my concealers, especially the coverage. This gives such nice coverage. I think this is actually a full coverage concealer. I don't have to put much to get that coverage, which I like. It is so creamy and so blendable. And I'm gonna place this in the corner and then out here just to give us like a little lift. And then I'm gonna place some in the middle of my forehead and then around my mouth area. Now what we're gonna do is just let this sit for about a minute or two before we blend it out. I promise you this makes such a big difference. It kind of just sets in a little bit, so when you're blending it out, it blends out beautifully. Like I'll show you guys. I'm gonna show you guys. While we do that, I like to do my brows. Right now I actually just ran out of my eyebrow pencil. I'm just using eyeshadow. Usually for my eyebrows, I use a pencil from the drugstore. I like to use something fairly inexpensive. Now that my eyebrows are set, I'm gonna go in and blend out the concealer. And then once I get to the outer, I'm just gonna blend upwards. Now we're gonna go in with some powder. I'm using my HudaBeauty Bake Powder today. This one is also high-end, but I do think that there are some really good drugstore setting powders out there. I really like this one, but I also love the One Size Translucent Powder. Both are really great at setting. The reason you want to set your makeup is one, it just makes it last longer, but it also just smooths everything out, helps with any oiliness and shininess, and just makes everything look really soft. And for me, I like to powder the entire face, so I just kind of go over my cheeks as well, the nooks and crannies where it can get oily. And if you don't like powder all over your face, you can just do a light pass of like a loose powder or a setting powder. Face is almost done. We're just gonna go in with some powder blush. I love both high-end and drugstore blushes. I think there are some formulas that are worth it, like the Rare Beauty blush, Danessa Myricks, that has a really great shade range, but there's also some really great e.l.f. blushes that people rave about. This blush specifically, I actually got it from Tik Tok shop. It's from a smaller beauty brand. I think it was around $20 for 4 blushes, which I think is a steal. They are super pigmented, really, really pretty. There's a red blush that I'm dying to use one day. Base is pretty much done. I actually don't like to go in with contour that much. Contour is another thing that I actually do buy high end because there are more shade ranges and selections when it comes to the high end products, which should not be the case. Drugstore should have shade ranges and selections for everyone as well. And this is a bigger topic in the beauty industry where we are still not getting the selection and shade ranges that we need for every single person. So let me say this, for all of my indie small business beauty brand owners, for people who are actually doing the work and research, actually thinking about every single person, having universal shade ranges, keep going because we need you. We need a change and a shift in the beauty industry. Base is done, so right now we've used foundation, concealer, setting powder, and some blush. And we also did our eyebrows. Now we're gonna head into the eyes, which I think can be the most daunting to some people. So here's my favorite beginner eyeshadow tutorial. I'm gonna start off with a shade that is very close to my base color. So I'm gonna use a lighter brown. I like to do this when I was beginning because it didn't look like too much. I like to place this right up to the brow bone, all over the lid. You can see it just kind of like leveled it up a little bit. It's not like a jarring shade when you look at me, just more of like a neutral color. And I like to go in with a really big fluffy brush to do this. You can keep it like this. I actually loved going in with a little bit of shimmer. You can do a pop of color if you want, or you can do something that is just more toned down, like maybe a brown or a coppery shade. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go in with this coppery shade. I'm gonna put this right on the lid, and you can see it just gives a hint of like sprinkle. That is it for the eyeshadow. Like eyeshadow palettes you can buy high-end or at the drugstore. I always use my Jacy Cosmetics palette. I think this one was a little bit more high-end, about $40. But look how many shades I get, how many shimmers and glitters, plus all these matte shades, these more brown shades that I use as like transition shades. Some of my favorite inexpensive eyeshadow palettes come from, of course, e.l.f. or NYX Cosmetics. I also love Moira Cosmetics. I think they have really beautiful color stories as well. And then the more expensive palettes, like the high-end ones like Danessa Myricks or Pat McGrath, those palettes are like professional makeup artist palettes. I think those are great palettes. Would I spend $100 on an eyeshadow palette? I don't know. Even though the Danessa Myricks palette looks very beautiful, and if it ever goes on sale I would get it. Now I'm gonna put on some mascara. This one's from e.l.f. I like using a drugstore mascara. I don't think I've ever paid for a high-end mascara. Maybe, actually, I think I got the Tower 28 mascara, which was good. Over time I was like, I think maybe just a regular mascara would do the same. And I also feel like with mascara, for me, it's more about the technique rather than the formula. Formula is important, don't get me wrong. It's more about how you like build up your lashes and use the wand. So what I like to do is just wiggle by the base of my lashes. So that's gonna help with the volume and the height. And I also like to turn it vertically to help with the length of the lashes as well. I know what you're thinking, why are we not doing eyeliner? I don't think eyeliner is like the easiest thing. I want to do a whole separate video about different ways we can do our eyeliner because there are different techniques that you can use, because I know that's one of the more like difficult and frustrating processes when it comes to makeup. So here we are, we're almost done. Now we're gonna go in with the lips, and for lipsticks, lip glosses, lip oils, I like to go from drugstore to high-end. I'm gonna be using the Milani Color Statement Lip Liner. This is in Spice. I always use this. This is like $5 and it's one of my favorite pencils of all time. I will say for lip liners though, I tend to go like more drugstore. I have one high-end lip liner. It's from Charlotte Tilbury and it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to like finish it. Is it worth more than $20? I will say my lip liners last really long. I'm not like always going through my lip liners. Now you can leave it like this if you like a matte look, but I am a gloss girl, so I'm gonna go in with the Fenty Beauty. This one is in Glass Slipper, so it's just a plain clear gloss. I love this formula. I mostly like it because it is so hydrating. It literally stays like this for hours. And here is the final look. This is such a pretty glam. It is not too much. This is something I think I can wear every day. I think we did this in like not that many products. You can take and leave out whatever you need, whatever is your style. I hope you guys love this tutorial. Let me know what you think down below. I really, really hope to see you in my next tutorial.